Okay, so my project's over the S.S St. Louis. The S.S St. Louis was a diesel-powered cruise liner. It would leave port of Hamburg, Germany in May 27th, 1939. When it left, it was carrying 937 Jewish passengers. Those passengers were fleeing Nazi Germany, where the oppression of Jewish people and the violence against Jewish people had greatly increased. It happened soon after Kristallnacht, where Jewish businesses and homes were ransacked and attacked by Nazi supporters and German people. So these passengers on the ship, they had bought visas from the Cuban officials, specifically Manuel Benitez Gonzalez, who also included in those visas to land at Cuba a landing permit. This is going to be important very soon. So once they arrived on May 27th, Gonzalez reversed his decision. But why he reversed his decision is not his own personal decision, because he had given these people these things because he had upcharged them with these visas and these landing permits by a ridiculous amount of money. But what he had done is angered President Brew at the time, who was the president, because he wouldn't give him a share of all these massive amounts of profits he had made. And Brew got angry and he retaliated and refused to let the Jewish people land. At the same time, Nazi officials back in Germany had heard that the ship was leaving and sent some of their own guys to Cuba to arrive first, and their whole job was to just stir up anti-Semitism and other issues in Cuba. So this caused mass protests outside the ships, so these people were just another reason President Brew wouldn't let them land. After Cuba denied their entry several days later, they were sent off towards the United States. The United States didn't even let them close. They sent out a gunboat and basically created a buffer so the ship couldn't get so close to land that it could run aground, so then they'd have to be let off, and also far enough away that people couldn't jump off the boat and swim to shore. This is basically the same thing that would also happen in the Canadian border. The Canadians would also not let them land, as also a lot of anti-Semitism, and just with Great Depression going on, there wasn't a lot of jobs that these people could have, and those citizens, specifically of America, were terrified these Jewish people would come in, take their jobs, take their money, when they're literally just trying to survive themselves. So that's really the main reasons why they weren't allowed to land, and they were sent back to Europe. Okay, so now the pro arguments for not letting the Jews land, so pro why they don't let them land, is first off, there was a lot of anti-Semitism that was held at the time. It was a pretty popular belief and pretty popular just idea throughout the entirety of the United States. And this would affect policymakers, especially because a lot of the anti-Semitism was held by those of power and those in Congress. So they would make laws that didn't directly say Jews couldn't come, but they would set quotas, specifically through the Johnson-Reed Act of 1924. This act would install immigration quotas, so every country could only have a certain amount of people come to the United States every year. So for Germany and Austria, they combined those, and that was 27,000 per year. So that might seem like a lot, just in general, but out of millions of Jews that need help, we only allowed basically 27,000. And not all those 27,000 are even going to be Jewish people, because it's based on a queue system. So it's first come, first serve. I mean, money does always come into play, bribe your way in, but by June 1939, the queue was at 309,782. So that means it would be tens of years of waiting just to get into the United States. And you obviously can't sit there in a boat for tens of years. That's not okay. That's not going to work. But 73% of the population of the United States supported this immigration quota, meaning that it wasn't going to get changed. Because if Congress and the United States population and the majority of the populace is supporting this, it's not something that's going to get changed. People were also scared that if they were to allow the ship to land, specifically the S.S St. Louis, it would cause a mass influx of Jewish immigrants trying to get into the United States. And if you let one ship in, what's to stop from letting the rest in? because we had just gone through the Great Depression, and we had a very strong sense of isolationism, as we didn't want to get involved in the war that seemed like it was about to break out. And people just they're like, no, we're not getting involved. And the best way to not get involved is just not let people in and just isolate ourselves from it. So that's really what a lot of the pro arguments were at the time. Now, for the supporters of allowing the S.S St. Louis to land, there was a lot less, because I already said that 73% of the United States in the poll voted to not change immigration quotas. And this survey took place after Kristallnacht happened, so people understood, there was violence occurring. Obviously, no one knew the horrors and atrocity of the Holocaust was going to occur, but there were still ideas that, something really bad is going on, and maybe we should help people, because it is our duty to help others. And a Richmond, Virginia resident, they reported that the ship had come close enough to Miami for the refugees to see the lights of the cities. Yet, the U.S. Coast Guard would not let them land, and the President of the United States, who had every possibility to do something, would not do so. And this was a disgrace and shame on the American nation, as we are built upon immigrants, yet we are not letting people who are suffering immigrate into the United States. And this was not a commonly held idea at the time, but there was definitely enough people that understood we are built upon immigrants, we are built upon immigration, we are built upon giving people a chance to live a free, as in democracy, and as you can see in later generations, the fight to make democracy, as in Vietnam, Korea, the fight for democracy. And democracy is freedom. And if we're not allowing other people to join in on that freedom, what are we really fighting for? And another one is the JDC. So there's the American Jewish Joint Distribution Committee. They were always in on, especially for the S.S St. Louis, arguments and bartering with the countries that would let the ship land. They even were willing to pay all of the demands of President Brew, and he gave some outlandish demands to even let the ship land. But because of some miscommunication, and if I'm being honest, I don't think President Brew really wanted to let them land. He just gave them these outlandish demands, and when they actually decided they'd pay him, he was kind of surprised, nope, sorry, it's closed. You can't come. But anyways, they also were able to post, the American Jewish Joint Distribution Committee posted a cash guarantee for $500,000. In today's money, that is $8 million, to help cover all the assisted costs for the people on the boat of the SS St. Louis, all 937, to help cover all the costs of living and stuff for the countries that did finally let them in the European bloc. Now, for my personal opinion on this whole scenario. So, I want to start off with just saying I can see where a lot of the animosity towards allowing a bunch of new people to come into the United States was, especially coming off the Great Depression. I mean, we were still struggling. The United States was still dealing with a lot of issues, high unemployment rates. So I can see why people were like, we don't want more people to come in because we're already struggling to find jobs as a nation. How is bringing more people in who have nothing because they're fleeing, how is that going to help? It's just going to raise unemployment and raise debt. How is that going to work? And how is this going to affect us as the person? But on the other hand, it was the wrong decision. I see how the decision was made, but I disagree with it. Because morally, you're literally allowing people to go back into suffering, into a place where, I mean, if violence is occurring, obviously they didn't understand what was eventually going to happen in the Holocaust. I don't think anyone was able to predict that, except for the Nazis themselves. But it's wrong, because I like to follow the golden rule. It's treat others how you want to be treated. So if you're treating others and saying, no, we're not going to help you, we're not going to give you a place to save yourselves and be protected from this evil that is occurring, how is that going to affect you? Because imagine if you were in their shoes. Imagine if you were on that boat and you were just begging for someone to save you because you knew this was your only chance. This was your last hope. And Like, if the roles were reversed, people would be upset. But the fact of the matter is, when it was our chance to help others and to put others before ourselves, we failed. We failed as a community. We failed as a country. We failed. So it's just, you can't even say it's a moral gray area. You can just say, you had the chance to help others. You had the chance to create a better world for other people, and you failed. And that is something you always got to take the chance at. You always got to be able to just take a sec, think about it, and be like, the world isn't all about me. Yeah, money and all that's great. But if we can help others, if we can save others' lives, if we can save others from oppression, you got to take that chance, even if it's going to make your life harder, even if you can't have that easy life that you really want. Because the easy life isn't what's going to make you happy. It's going to be helping others. It's going to be putting others before yourself. And I think that's something that's seen a lot in a lot of religions, especially like the biggest ones, because I personally am Catholic, and the service of others is an important characteristic of that faith. And it's an important characteristic of many other important religions. And as the United States being a melting pot is what we like to claim, it's like we have all these people from all over the world. Well, our country is based on that. Our country is based on helping others, of being a country of immigrants. We have to be able to help others and help others join our country. And then, again, as I said just a little bit earlier, our country is built on democracy, which is the idea of freedom, the freedom of choice, the freedom of religion, the freedom of everything. So how come we can just pick and choose who we let in? We can't, because if we really believe in freedom and if we really want true freedom, we have to let people in. We have to help those who are less fortunate and those who are in danger. Because it is our job to protect not just the freedom of ourselves, but the freedom of everyone. Because wherever, there was this great quote. I see if I can remember it completely off the top of my head. But I think it's like repression anywhere is a danger to freedom everywhere. So if we're not protecting freedom everywhere, then freedom isn't real, because it's just a little ideology for us. But there's people all over the world being repressed, and if we're not willing to help them, then we're not doing our jobs. We're not living to our fullest as people, as moral beings, as religious believers. It is your job to help others, and if we refuse that opportunity, we're no better than everybody else. That's all I got.